The first process of that is the restitution of consciousness. We in 2008, including Barack Obama, are the recipients of those people who have struggled for over 300 years to restore an awareness of who we were. We are the products of those griots who came teaching us who we were. Henry McNeil Turner, Carter G. Woodson, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, Noble Drew Ali, Elijah Muhammad, the latter-day griots such as John G. Jackson, John Henry Clark, Chancellor Williams, Cheikh Diop, and their contemporary students, Malcolm X, Asa Hilton, and yes, even Reverend Jeremiah Wright, if the truth be told. If anybody's planning to run for office, you may want to leave now, because they may take snippets of my presentation and you will lose the election. Because I'm going to tell the truth like Jeremiah told the truth. And they ain't going to tell the truth because they ain't going to tell the whole story. They're going to tell part of the story. So if you're scared of it, you better get the hell out now. But these griots engaged in the process of trying to restore the lost awareness of who we were. So that you can't be a man if you don't know who you are. So the restitution of consciousness was a key part of restoring manhood. Those forebears have permitted Barack Obama to affirm who he is. And his identity as a son of Africa is an affirmation that he has the right and the capacity and has grown into the consciousness to choose his identity. This is the first generation that we have had people, men in America who were from Africa, who were former slaves, who had an option, who actually selected to be who they were. So if you notice, he didn't change his name from Barack to Bernard. He remained Barack Obama, whether they like it or not. He understands that his foundation and his roots are African, and even though he is clearly of mixed heritage, which he affirms and sees, he did not choose to somehow select a marriage partner and build a family based upon the ambiguity of race, but he chose someone who looked like what his chosen identity was, unlike Tiger Woods and some other people who chose some other people who activate the ambiguity. These things are significant, and you will understand why he is what he is, even though he doesn't say that's what he's doing. I want you to understand, because I'm a psychologist, I got to let you understand what's going on in your mind. And somehow, even though he dare not say any of these things I'm saying, you found out that if anybody finds out that he knows even what I'm saying, he's in trouble. So don't tell nobody that he knows these things. But the reason that it is because we need to understand that if we are going to restore the kind of men that he exemplifies, who is courageous and proud and capable of being unapologetic about who he is, then you've got to know who you are. And so having learned what he learned, thank you very much, having learned what he learned about his identity from these griots who for 3 centuries who have been struggling. Carter G. Woodson somehow ran into all kind of opposition by being called a militant almost 70 years ago when he decided to have Negro History Week. Black History Studies and all the other kinds of things that now permits offices of diversity, University of Akron, University of Michigan, The Ohio State University, Black Cultural Centers. All these things are a consequence of griots who said, you got to know who you are. I don't care how many degrees you get, BAs, MAs, PhDs, you can get any kind of plantation degree you want to get, but if you're going to be a real man, a real woman, and to leave here as a truly educated versus a miseducated state person, the central part of that is developing consciousness. The second piece, so the restitution of consciousness was the foundation. The second part of the restoring of manhood is the resurrection of courage. The resurrection of courage. So the initiates of defiance were bred from this consciousness. As these people who were the students of the Griots began to know who they were, they demonstrated a restitution of that kind of defiance in the face of opposition, which was characteristic of African manhood. What made you a man was to stand up to the threats that threatened the village, that threatened the tribe. The loss of the capacity to be able to defend your children, to defend your mate, to defend the life of your village was a consequence of the devastating consequences of the barbaric and the brutal system that robbed us of our minds, robbed us of our dignity, and prevented us from being able to constitute and to restore this capacity to understand who we were. So courage then could not be reinstated until consciousness was reinstated. So we find in Barack Obama the consequences of people such as Nat Turner and Frederick Douglass and Paul Robeson and yes, Martin Luther King Jr., Muhammad Ali, who said, "I ain't no damn Cassius Clay, I am Muhammad Ali." That somehow the consequences of people like Kwame Ture, aka Stokely Carmichael, the consequences of people like Louis Million Man March Farrakhan, who somehow stood up to America and said, "Yeah, I'm a man, whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, love it. Now go and tell that." That was the kind of courage that permitted it to make it possible for someone to come at this point in history to stand in front of America and to be able to claim they have the audacity to feel they can run and lead the free world. They can only do it because the lion has been slain. They can only do it because they have transcended vulnerability, and because of that vulnerability that has been slayed, that we, Barack Obama, can have the audacity to not only write a book that's called Audacity, but to declare audaciously that I am able to stand up to racist America and expect that it will understand what I'm capable of doing in spite of its history and understand the specialness of what I bring to the table. And it took courage to do that. Because for centuries we've been somehow wanting to sit in the back table. We want to be the assistant to the assistant. We want to be the assistant to someone else. We want to sit at the table. We want to somehow be a part of those who are running the thing. But it takes real audacity and courage to say, no more sitting at the table. I want to run the table. And that is in fact the restitution of courage. Now, have these initiates, had there not been a Nat Turner, had there not been a Frederick Douglass, had there not been a Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, had there not been a Louis Farrakhan, had there not been a Muhammad Ali, he would not have been capable of having sufficient backbone to be able to stand up and do that. That didn't come magically. He's not a messianic figure that came out of the sky, transported by way of Kenya into some place in Hawaii, and therefore appeared out of nowhere on the south side of Chicago that somehow emerged and said, I therefore have this kind of audacity. That ain't where he came from. He came from people who took on America when America was still saying you don't have a right to be men. He is a byproduct of the Martin Luther Kings and all of those other people who challenged America and slayed the lion. The third piece is the affirmation of competence. Consciousness, courage, and competence.